As I'm nearing the end of my third pregnancy, I am doing this birth story series, and so this is the birth story of my second daughter. So let's take it back to when I first found out I was pregnant. My son was 10 months old, and I cried. I was not ready. I was like, I'm such a terrible mother because I didn't give my kid like a long enough time of it just being him and his parents. But we worked through that. They're less than 18 months apart and they're best friends. So if you haven't seen my first birth story, how to be induced at 38 weeks due to preeclampsia, with my second one, my doctor had kind of been watching my blood pressure. And at my 37-week appointment, she was like, I really don't like how your blood pressure is trending, so we're gonna go ahead and schedule you for an induction on Monday. This was a Friday. So I called my husband, I'm like, hey, we're having our baby Monday. And he's like, okay. At least this time I had time to prepare. And I was like, okay, this time I am going to do it unmedicated, like no epidural, I can do this. I think because I had time to prepare, I was a lot calmer in my labor and delivery of my daughter. So we got to the hospital early. They started the induction process. Everything was going well. I was able to move around, change positions, get on the birthing ball, things like that. And then towards the end, in that transition period, whenever it's getting close to time to pushing your baby out, things started ramping up. I did get a dose of Dilaudid, I think about an hour before she was born. I know my husband was thankful because I had to have him do counter pressure on my hips for a solid hour at least. And that was the only way that I was able to get through my contractions unmedicated. He was a lifesaver. I know he was probably in a lot of pain, but I was like leaned over the birthing ball and leaned kind of on the bed too. And every time I had a contraction, I just had him put that counter pressure on my hips. He's a very strong man. He works in construction, and it really, truly helped me get through that. That went on for a couple of hours. I need to back up and say they broke my water around like 1:45 that afternoon. And then an hour or so after that is when things started really ramping up. And that's when I had him do the counter pressure on my hips because the contractions were so bad. Then it got time to push. I definitely felt the urge to push. You feel like you have to have a bowel movement. But my advice is don't try to stop that instinct. Just go with the flow. Your body knows what it's doing. So I got time to push her out, and I was doing really well on my hands and knees, but also the head of the bed was tilted up probably about 60 degrees, and I was kind of holding on to it like this and still on my knees too. And I really wanted to push like that, but they told me that I couldn't because my doctor wanted to be able to see better or something. I don't remember the whole situation. This time, I'm definitely not gonna let them tell me that because pushing on your back's like one of the worst things for your baby. Then they have to kind of be pushed over a hump that's in your pelvis. And if you are on your hands and knees, your pelvis is more open and gravity can help do its job and get your baby out that way. I did not enjoy being on my back because then my husband couldn't do counter pressure on my hips and things were seemingly unbearable. Then came the ring of fire, which is exactly how it sounds. It feels like everything is on fire down there. But when I tell you that only lasted for like a minute or two, as soon as I pushed her out, that pain immediately went away. The worst part of that labor for me was immediately after I had her, I had a first-degree tear and my doctor started stitching me up, but she had not given me any numbing spray yet, so I felt that and it was very painful. I spoke up, I was like, hey, that really hurts. So they did some numbing spray, finished doing that, and it was over with. I feel like it was so much easier. My recovery was quicker. I had her around 4:30-ish, and then my in-laws brought my son up to the hospital around 7, I think. And I was up out of the bed, I was holding him. Didn't realize I was not supposed to hold him because he was like 20 pounds at the time. But anyways, I felt great. I was like, I feel good enough to go home. Of course, he wouldn't let me have to stay 24 hours. I think it also helped that I didn't have to have the magnesium drip for her. So between the combination, I just felt so good. The worst part postpartum with her was a week after I had her. I was sitting in the recliner at home. My son wanted to be picked up, so I was holding the baby. I bent down like this, using very improper body mechanics to pick him up, and I popped a rib out of place. And it sucked so bad because that next week, my baby was sleeping in 3 and 4 hour stretches, but I wasn't because I was in so much pain. I was crying. I was in the bottom of the shower, just laying down, letting the hot water run on me. It was terrible. A couple chiropractor adjustments, I was fine. But That was the worst part postpartum for me immediately. Overall, her birth was great. Again, induced, had 1 dose of IV medication, but no epidural, and it was fine. I plan on not having an epidural again this time. I'm hoping I don't have to be induced. I hear that induction contractions are worse than natural contractions. So I definitely feel I made it through being induced without an epidural. Certainly if I go into labor on my own and not have to be induced, then I can do that without an epidural too. So we shall see. Also want to mention that she didn't have to have any oxygen. She was perfectly healthy, put her right into my arms, and she was great. But that was my positive induction plus no epidural birth story.